I'm taking this very seriously. Hi, I'm Kate and welcome to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going through all of the different brands of palettes I have and deciding if I could only keep one from each brand, which palette would I keep? So I do have quite a few brands that I have like a large collection from. I also have quite a few brands where I only have one palette from. So I am not sure if I'm gonna bring those up or not because I only have one palette, but for several of these brands, it is taking a lot of thinking and I'm still not even 100% sure. So this video will be kind of my live choices for a few of these. I'm gonna go through the brands that I have and talk through why I'm choosing the palettes that I'm choosing. So the first brand that I have is Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I have quite a few palettes from ABH. So I have quite a few of the standard 14 pans. I have one of the really big ones and I have one of the really small ones. So for me, with this brand, it comes down to two palettes. I'm between Subculture and Sultry. So Subculture is just a very like grungy palette. I know there were issues with performance for some people. I had no issues with this. I love it. I still do. I love this color story. I might try to recreate it with some of my singles. I don't know, we'll see. But I also have Sultry, which I used this on my wedding day, the mattes at least. And I love this palette too. But I think in the end, I would have to choose Subculture. So from ABH, I would keep Subculture. From BH Cosmetics, I have 4 palettes. And the two that I narrowed it down to were Blueberry Muffin and Lost in LA. So Blueberry Muffin, it's probably the best blue palette that I have, which is why I'm leaning towards this one. But Lost in LA, I also really love for the pastels. And you can get these pastels to go pretty bold. Ugh. But you know, I think I would choose Blueberry Muffin because I don't have any other blues that I really love in my collection, so I would keep Blueberry Muffin. One of my current favorite brands is Black Moxie, and I do have 3 palettes from Black Moxie. And this one was actually a pretty easy decision for me. I love all of these palettes, but my favorite is still the Pastel Obsession. This is the first one I got from them, and it's still my favorite, still my most used, so this was a pretty easy choice for me. Next up is Glaminatrix, and I have 2 palettes from Glaminatrix. So the first palette that I got was Silent Night, which I love, especially this Baubles shade. The mattes perform beautifully too. And then next up is Nocturnal, which if you've watched my channel recently, I bring this one up a lot. I love them both so much for very different reasons, but I think just for the variety, I would have to go with Nocturnal. All right, another brand that I have quite a few from, so I'm not gonna take them all down, is Huda Beauty. I do love a lot of my Huda palettes. I have quite a few of the little 9 pans. I have, I think, 3 of the big ones. But another easy decision for me, I'm going with Mercury Retrograde. I think this was also in my, like, if I could keep 10 palettes, I would keep this. This is fantastic. I love how it performs. I love the mattes. I love the shimmers. I love this palette. Next up is Juvia's Place, another one. I'm not going to drag them all down because I have too many, but I narrowed it down to 2, and I'm between the Tribe and the Deuce. So the Deuce, I've used this one recently. I really love this, beautiful and springy, but the Tribe is just so unique. I just don't have anything like it. I'm going with the Tribe. I would keep the Tribe for sure. All right, Kaleidos, I have 5 of their Futurism palettes. These are all fantastic, but this one was another pretty easy choice for me. I would for sure keep Sashimi City. I feel like I'm not gonna have a lot of neutral choices in this, but this is one where it's neutral, but it's really special. And I use this more than I use any of my other Kaleidos palettes, so I would easily keep this one. All right, Glamlight is the reason why I waited on this video because I was waiting for my second Michaela palette to arrive. So I have the original Glamlight and Michaela palette, which is right here, super fun and colorful. And then the newest one right here, also colorful, a little more dark and sultry, which I love those vibes. And I really thought this was going to be an easy choice and that the new one would win it for me. But after using it a few times, it performs great. It's a beautiful palette, but I'm gonna have to go with the original. If I had to choose between these two, this is the one I would keep. I love the variety in here. I love the variety of greens in the new one for sure, but the overall variety of this one, I just still see myself grabbing for this one a lot more. Lime Crime is a brand that I've decluttered quite a bit from, and I only have 2 left. So I have the Prelude Chroma, which is a really fun color story, but I feel like a few of my cool shimmers I have hard pan on, so I don't know. And then I have the Immortalis, which is a really beautiful cool tone palette. Their packaging is really bulky, but it's kind of cool. But if I had to choose between these two, I would for sure go with the Immortalis just to have these nice cool tones. All right, another brand that I haven't even chosen yet as of now is Melt. So I have 4 Melt palettes. I have the Gemini palette, which for a while was my favorite palette in my entire collection, and I still love this palette. I love greens. As you can see, I'm wearing greens today. I love this palette. The 420 palette is another grungy color story. I still really like this. It wouldn't be my top Melt palette. And then of course I have the Vita and the Muerte. The one that I'm using more often lately is the Vita. I love this color story. It's really fun and bright, but I love the Muerte as well. I mean, I don't even know where I would choose for these. I feel like, I think I'm gonna rule Muerte out. It's beautiful, but I think it would have to be between Vita and Gemini for me. So, I think I'm gonna go with Vita, which surprises even me, but like these orange and red tones in there are fantastic. The green and yellow and some neutral browns. I think or do I go with Gemini? No, I'm gonna go with Vita. We're going with Vita. I would keep Vita. All right, from Moira, I have 2 palettes. I have the Garden of My Mind and I have the Let's Get Carried Away. So the Garden of My Mind is the first Moira palette that I ever tried. It is beautiful and neon and performs great. The next palette I have is Let's Get Carried Away. It has the funky pan sizes. I don't love that. It performs well, but I'm going with Garden of My Mind for sure. All right, from Nabla, I have 2 palettes. I have the Cutie Wildberry palette, which is a really cute little 6-pan palette. And then I have the Side by Side palette, which is a really great neutral palette. I'm keeping Side by Side. I use this a lot when I go to events or do wedding makeup, so I can't let that one go. All right, Natasha Denona. I have quite a few Natasha Denona palettes. I'm gonna rule out all the minis. I wouldn't choose any of the minis over anything else. So what I'm left with is the Sunrise palette, which is a beautiful midi-size palette. I really enjoy this one. I have the Gold palette, which is a beautiful golden neutral palette, which I use a lot. Biba, which is a straight up neutral palette. You have Cool, Warm, Neutral. I don't use this one much. And then the Safari, which I really love. It's an all matte palette. So I think for me, it would be between Safari and Gold, but in the end, I'm going with Gold. I would keep the Gold palette for sure. This palette is probably my most reached for Natasha palette, whether I'm going neutral or golden. The bluey teals in here are really beautiful as well. I'd keep this one. Nomad is a brand that I have a lot from. So I am pretty sure which direction I'm going, but I'm gonna rule out Shanghai. It's not my favorite for a few reasons. Packaging, color story, all that. I'm also gonna rule out Tokyo, which I love. I do love these tones, but I'm gonna rule it out. I'm also going to rule out America's Parks, another beautiful one that I love and I use a lot. I use all of these a lot. I'm gonna rule out Whistler, another beautiful palette that I love and use a lot. That's why it's hard to choose when there's so many good things to choose from. So the last 3 that I have are their newest palette, which is the Provence palette, which is beautiful, and I've really enjoyed playing around with this lately. Oh, that is really pretty. That is beautiful. I think I'm gonna rule this one out though. So I'm down to 2, which is Paradise Islands and Iceland. So Paradise Islands is one of their larger palettes and it is really beautiful. I love the looks that I've created with it. But I think I'm gonna have to choose Iceland. This is the first Nomad palette that I ever tried and it is still my favorite. I love the greens in here. I love the blues. I love the warm tones. I love everything about this palette. So I would keep Iceland. All right, from Odin's Eye, I only have 2 Odin's Eye palettes. I have the Verdandi and the Erd. So the Erd is kind of a greenish brown palette. And the Verdandi is a very warm tone palette. I'm going with Verdandi. When I got these, I thought I would like Erd a lot more, but I use the Verdandi a lot more often, so I'm going with that one. From Viseart, I have 3 of their little petite palettes, edit palettes. So I have the Warm Edit, the Dark Edit, and the Paris Edit. I think I would easily keep the Dark Edit. I just think it's the most interesting. You have really beautiful deep mattes. The shimmers are okay, but I love Viseart's mattes, so I would keep this one. Urban Decay is a brand that I've decluttered a lot from. I used to have a ton of Urban Decay, and I only have 2 left. So I do have the Naked Honey, which is a beautiful honey-toned neutral palette, and then I do have the Moon Dust, which is really fun, glittery shades. I still really like this, I just don't use it often, but I would definitely keep the Naked Honey. And one more brand that I've decluttered a lot from is Too Faced. I only have 2 left. I have this extra spicy gingerbread, which is a nice warm tone palette. Yeah, I think is it scented? I feel like it's scented. And then I have the sparkling pineapple, which is also scented. I hate the smell of this one. It's like sickening sweet pineapple and I don't love it, but I love this palette and this is the one I would keep. All right, I only have 2 brands left, so next up is Pat McGrath. So I don't know if you can see right here, I have all 5 of my motherships. I love them all, they're all beautiful, but I'm between the Divine Rose and the Bronze Seduction. But I think in the end, if I was forced to choose, I would choose to keep the Bronze Seduction. This beauty right here. I wish you could see in person like how beautiful the special shades are in this palette. I would not be able to get rid of this one, so I would keep Bronze Seduction. All right, and last up for me is ColourPop. And I have like, I think 30, did I just count 30, 31 ColourPop palettes, which is obnoxious. But I have not bought ColourPop for a while. I think the only ColourPop palette I've gained in my collection in the last 2 years is maybe 3 of them. So I don't know, I'm kind of torn. I ruled out the bigger ones, they're fine. So I'm between 2 of the smaller ones and it's High Tide and That's Taupe. So High Tide is the teal 9 pan and That's Taupe is a really cool toned 9 pan. So I think in the end, I'm going with High Tide. It's unique, I don't have any other tones like that, so we're gonna stick with that. So those are all the palettes I would keep if I could only keep one from these brands. Again, I have other brands where I only have 1 palette, so I didn't bring those up today. But let me know below if you would have chosen the same as me or if you would have picked differently. I would love to know. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.